Deion Sanders worked his transfer portal magic over the past few days.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Bohr, but today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Like I said, free and available wherever you get your podcast. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, supporting me, making the show possible. We've had some really fun episodes over the past few days, and we're going to dive into what Coach Prime has been doing in the transfer portal because he's been making some moves. So over the past few days, Coach Prime has brought in three transfers, and two of them are guys that I fully expect to start and be key players for this team. The other one is a guy who has a lot of potential, just hasn't played a lot of football. So let's run you through the list of who they got and why I think that Coach Prime is working his magic. So starting with Kylan Salter, he's a linebacker transfer out of TCU. That last name should sound familiar because he is the brother of new quarterback, Caden Salter. He didn't play a lot at TCU, only had a couple tackles, but former three-star recruit. He's a freshman, 6'2", 225. He's a guy who's going to have a chance to come in, compete for that starting role, push for that starting role, or at the very least be in the rotation, right? And it never hurts to get guys who have multiple years of eligibility, and he's going to be working pretty hard to sort of be on the field and play with his brother at the same time as Caden is in his final year of eligibility. So pretty big get there in Kylan Salter. I think he has a lot of potential at linebacker for the Buffs, especially since they're losing Nikhil Green and Levante Bentley. So let's move on up to the offensive line. And this is interesting. So Carter Miller, who was on the show last week, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago, I think it was last week. I had him on, really liked talking to him. I enjoyed talking to him. He seemed like he was very willing and open to competing for a starting role. He seemed like he loved Boulder, and he talked about all these great stories about Boulder. Well, he ended up flipping to UCF, and before people get on him, because I see this is my issue with the comment sections. You can't have it both ways, right? You can't be excited when people come and then attack them when they leave, right? So he leaves, he's going to UCF, and I think people have to realize the guy that recruited him to Boulder, Phil Loadhall, no longer here. So I think things change, right? That's life, right? Things change for Mr. Carter Miller, and so he's at UCF. So what does Coach Prime do? Well, he goes out and probably gets, I don't want to say an upgrade, but I might say, dare I say it, an upgrade. Zarian McGill from Louisiana Tech he had a better PFF grade with a 69.9. He was an all Sun Belt performer this past season, second team all Sun Belt at center, and he has over like 1,500 snaps and 35 games under his belt. So Coach Prime, Colorado, they're getting some talent on that offense line, because that offense line, whether people want to admit it or not, it needs to be rebuilt, right? You lose Khalil Benson to Indiana. You lose Carter Miller, like I said. You're going to lose a couple other guys, and so you never really know who's going to be in the mix. You have Jordan Seaton for sure at left tackle, and everything else, for me, I think is open. And so Zarian McGill could probably lock down that center spot for the Buffs and provide some much needed size and experience, because he's a big fella. Let me pull up his height and weight for you guys, because I think that was the one thing that a lot of people say about Colorado is, oh, they're not that big, they're blah blah blah. That's kind of like the notion, right? Well, he's 6'2", 308 pounds, so he's going to get a little more beef on him in Boulder, and he's going to be looking real good, commanding the offense line. And then maybe my favorite and possibly the most underrated transfer portal addition in the country, at least for Colorado for sure. They go out and they get a linebacker, and they just don't get any linebacker, because you guys know I've been talking about Colorado losing talent at linebacker, right? I've said it multiple times, and I think a lot of people don't really understand that losing Nikhil Green and Levante Bentley was a huge loss. It was, right? We saw it in the bowl game. It was. They were physically outmatched. They were dominated in the trenches, and the linebackers weren't really able to make the plays necessary. So Colorado goes out and gets Martavius French from UTSA, Texas San Antonio. He's a senior, super senior that benefited from, I guess, dare I call it, the Diego Pavia rule. So shout out to Diego Pavia. He benefits from that rule where all guys who played junior college within a certain time frame, they get an extra year of eligibility. So Colorado gets him. He started his career at Tennessee, ended up at a JUCO, and had a tremendous year this past season. 80 total tackles. He was a second team All ACC type of guy, or All AAC, excuse me. And he had some big programs coming after him. He had Miami, he had Billy B and the North Carolina Tar Heels coming after him, and UCF were all after him. But he picked Colorado. I saw a report that said he turned down some major NIL offers because he felt like Colorado could do a lot of things for him. And so I really appreciated that. I think that's probably the most slept on transfer portal acquisition. So if I had to give this haul a grade, I'd go solid B plus, A minus, right? You get a starting caliber linebacker, you get some depth that linebacker, and then you get a guy who's probably going to plug and play at center right away. So Coach Prime just added 2 starters to the mix, and this Colorado transfer portal class is looking pretty darn good, and it's probably far from done because we all know Coach Prime is good for about 50 portal guys a year. And right now, Colorado's at 14, and they currently rank as the number 19 class in the country. I'll run you through the list a little bit. We have Martavius French, Zara McGill, Calvin Salter, the 3 guys that I've talked about. Tawfiq Bayard, who was on my show last week. Go check him out. Had a great time talking to him. Just a really thoughtful, sort of eloquent. It was just a fun conversation. We learned a lot. I think we learned a lot about him. We learned a lot about the transfer portal. The transfer portal. So I really liked talking to Tawfiq, the USF safety transfer. They have Aki Oji, the offensive tackle from Texas A&M. Joseph Williams, a star receiver from Tulsa, who was the AAC freshman of the year. Caden Salter, Makari Vickers from Oklahoma. He's a DB, former blue chip recruit that got into some trouble, but is now looking for an opportunity. They got another linebacker in Reginald Hughes. So Colorado is really bolstering their talent. And Jaheim Otis is another interesting addition. And then they got one of the top tight ends in the portal, and Zach Atkins. So Coach Prime, Colorado, working that transfer portal magic. And I think they're far from done, obviously. I think, like I said, Coach Prime is good for about 50 portal players a year. So I fully expect this class to continue to grow. But this is a great start. So I appreciate the efforts. I think they're going in with a clear target in mind where it's like we want guys who, again, have some experience and some guys who could be here for multiple years. So that way we could continue to make this team special and make this program special moving forward. When we come back, the NFL draft order is officially set. So what does that mean for Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter? This episode of Locked On Buffs, it's brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. Brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Because right now, from big upsets to game-winning drives, NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Visit the website and go check out some odds, right? Derrick Henry for a touchdown, always good. Josh Allen, same thing. He's a touchdown machine. Lamar Jackson, same thing. Touchdown machine. So go check them out. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, so that way you guys don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Give me 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure to subscribe. Share this with a friend. We're nearing 7,000 subscribers. Would love to get there. I have a goal this year. It's a pretty lofty one, but I want to hit a certain amount of subs, and I think we could do it because you guys are the best in the West and in the world. So let's talk about it. The NFL draft order is officially set, at least for the top, which is all that matters for Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, because they are going to be going near the top. At least that's what the belief is by most mock drafts. And this past week was week 18 in the NFL, which solidified some things. And all these guys who had some questions about where they may end up have probably gotten a little bit of clarity, right? So let me run you through the top 10, and I'll sort of give my evaluation of what I think makes sense for Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders. So starting with number 1, the Cleveland Titans, the Tennessee Titans. They have the number 1 pick in the draft. I think they obviously go quarterback. Will Levis, that dude puts mayonnaise in his coffee and does a bunch of weird stuff. And yeah, he's just he's good for memes, right? He's good for like a really stupid play every once in a while, but he's just not that guy. And he's just not that guy. So I think Tennessee goes quarterback. Cleveland Browns, second pick, they have to go quarterback. Deshaun Watson was a colossal waste of money, even with the off the field issues. He also has been injured, and I just saw a report the other day that I think he saw a little bit of a hiccup in his Achilles recovery. So I think the Deshaun Watson experiment, if it's not over in Cleveland, it's coming to an end, if you will. And so I expect them to go quarterback as well, which Shedeur, Cam Moore, those two guys have been 1 and 2, depending on your mock draft of choice. Number 3, the New York Giants, 3 and 14. They need a quarterback, which is tough because this class only has 2 good quarterbacks, so we'll see where they go. New England Patriots, number 4. They don't need a quarterback, which this could be a spot for Travis Hunter. Jacksonville doesn't need a quarterback. They're at 5. The Raiders, they do need a quarterback, but they're at 6. So unless they can scrounge up some offers or a big offer for someone who's in the top 2, because they will need a quarterback, and they may just have to take a Aaron Rodgers flyer or something. New York Jets at 7. They also need a quarterback. Carolina Panthers, they have Bryce Young, and they're sticking with them. The Saints, who knows what they're going to do. And then Chicago at 10. So that's the draft order. If I had to give you my top Shedeur Sanders landing spots, I'd go Tennessee. I'd go New York because obviously the cleats. And then I'd go the Raiders. So 1, 3, or 6. And it wouldn't shock me if one of those teams tries to move up. Just saying, I think if Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top pick, those are the teams that make the most sense. If I were him, and if I were Coach Prime, and Coach Prime, he said that he's not going to be doing he's not going to be making public moves where he's like controlling where Shedeur goes. If I were him, I wouldn't want him to go to Cleveland. I would probably be behind the scenes going, no, thank you. Because Cleveland, have you guys seen the jacket? Comment below. Give me a comment, like a little thumbs up or a yes, if you've seen that fan's jacket where it's like 100 quarterbacks in 25 years, like that have started for the Cleveland Browns, right? Cleveland is where quarterbacks go to die. It's where quarterbacks and their careers go to die. And I would hate that for Shedeur Sanders. I would hate it for Cam Ward, but obviously this is Locked On Buffs, not Locked On Hurricanes or Locked On Miami. So I would hate to see Shedeur end up in Cleveland. And then Vegas makes a lot of sense, but they screwed the you-know-what by winning a couple meaningless games, but maybe that saved Antonio Pierce's job because he, as of today, wasn't fired, or at least he said he wasn't told he was fired. It's a little bit of a one of those things where you can't like be mad at the guy for winning games, but at the same time, like it's like, oh great, you won 2 games that meant nothing, and so you totally messed up your team's chances with the number 1 pick because they went from number 1 to now the Raiders are sitting at number 6, which is ugly. So I mean, the Raiders make sense, but let's see. And then Tennessee, I like the possible fit there. I think just Will Levis was not that guy, and I thought Will Levis was not that guy when he was in college, and now I think he's even more not that guy because he's obviously not that guy, and they're going to replace him. So Shedeur Sanders, those 3 spots make the most sense for me. Travis Hunter, I'm looking at spots 4, 5, and probably 8 makes the most sense for him. The New England Patriots, they need weapons for Drake May. Same thing with Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence needs someone that could catch the ball. You need someone that's reliable. And then Carolina, same thing, reliable weapon for Bryce Young. And I don't know where Travis projects per se, but I think if I were him, I'd want to play receiver. You make more money, career is longer, and just throw him in at corner every once in a while. But I think Travis, if I were him, I'd want to play receiver, and I'd want to play with a talented young quarterback. And all three of those teams have just that. So you guys comment below, which team do you think Shedeur Sanders will get drafted by, and which team do you think Travis Hunter will get drafted by? When we come back, we're going to be talking about what Coach Prime needs to get and the 2 coaches that he has to replace. This episode of Locked On Buffs, it's brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. And let me tell you about Gametime. If you're thinking about going to a sporting event, Gametime is your must play. It's where you must go to get your tickets. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals and great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Gametime Picks to find tickets for an upcoming game. Browsing through the deals was a breeze. I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The Super Deal, in particular, stood out as the best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying, and the app shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkouts. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gave me a complete peace of mind. So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I appreciate the support that you guys give me. Appreciate the support that you guys give the show. Make sure to like, subscribe, give me 5 stars. Share this with a friend who you know loves some Buffs, because we got some really fun episodes and guests coming up. Some more interviews on the horizon, and you guys will not want to miss out, because who doesn't? It's the dog days of sports. So you guys want some inside info on the Buffs. What better way to get it than from guys who are going to be on the team? So make sure to stay tuned, like, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss out. Coach Prime has lost 2 coaches this offseason, Phil Loadholt and Coach Dancy. They both went to Mississippi State. Tough blow, I think. I think a lot of people were like, this is what you're meant to do, right? You work your way up the coaching ladder, whatever. Yeah, it's fine. Would have loved to see those guys stick around and work with the team. And I like to see continuity, and sometimes people stick around, sometimes they don't. And I would have loved to see that. Robert Livingston, Pat Shermer, I love the continuity there. So if I'm Coach Prime, the perfect replacement, starting with the offense line, is they need a coach who is technique based and someone who can really work with a ragtag group of guys, because that's probably what they're going to get, right? You're going to get a mixture of 5 guys who haven't played together, for the most part, and you really need to emphasize, hey, focus on your technique. Hey, we need to be better in the run game. Hey, we need to be better in pass protection, because Shedeur Sanders was still one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the country last year. So you need a coach who is experienced, understands that what the struggles have been, and has a solution for that. I don't know what the solution is, because that's not my job to know the issues, or that's not my job to understand how to fix those issues, because I'm not getting paid to do so. That being said, it would be great for Colorado to get a run game going, right? I think you have a running back like Dallin Hayden. You have a running back like Michael Welch, who's shown some flashes, but they play behind a terrible offensive line. So it's really difficult for them to showcase their skills when they're getting attacked behind the line every time, and their average yards before contact is like 2 or 1, because other teams are just creating so much pressure and clogging up the rush lane. So really need someone who can help turn this rushing group around. There's run blocking group around, excuse me. And then defensive line wise, I thought Colorado did well last year. And so you need someone who could come in, sort of pick up where they left off, right? You see what Colorado's good at. You see their strengths. You sort of see the weaknesses that they had maybe. Run defense, you need to get that always in check. Getting to the quarterback is important, and Colorado is the best in the Big 12 at doing so. But I think they need someone who could find that sustained success and just sort of blend with Warren Sapp and everybody else who works there, because obviously it's a lot of chefs in the kitchen, right, on the cross-eyed defensive line. So if you're Coach Prime, you need to find someone who isn't afraid to have collaboration. I think that's sort of one of the bigger misconceptions about coaching, is sometimes you don't get to coach how you want. So you need to be okay with collaboration, and you need to be okay with, hey, I'm going to work with my guys here. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm going to be the only voice they hear. So you need someone who's okay with other coaches saying some stuff to them, and you would like to see someone who could bring the most out of these guys, right? You want another dominant pass rush so that way you can sort of take over games with the defense if the offense is struggling. Because we saw that a couple times this past year where the defense kept Colorado in this game, which allowed for the offense, who is prone to starting slow, it allowed them to get things going. So those are my two sort of like list of requirements for the offense line and defense line coach that they lost. I really think that Coach Prime has some big decisions ahead of him. I think he's going to go NFL route again. I think he likes the guys who have that NFL experience, and I can't fault him, right? Everyone wants to go to the NFL, so why not bring in guys who have been there, done that at the NFL level? So it'll be interesting to see who he brings in. I'll keep you guys covered every step of the way. I appreciate you guys for tuning in this evening and listening to me yak it up, chat it up with you. And make sure to like, subscribe, and follow my everydayers. You know who you are. The show's not possible without you. You tune in every single day. You comment, you subscribe, you like, you follow, all that. So I appreciate the support that you guys give me. I will see you guys tomorrow.